Hello, dudes and girls. Hi, guys. Why am I using my marker like a mic? You will never know. Have you ever noticed when you try to change something and you're super motivated and you're like, oh yeah, tomorrow's gonna be the day. And then tomorrow comes and it's not the day. And the half of the day passes by and you're like, hold up, today was supposed to be the day that I change it all. What exactly happens between you feeling super motivated to make that big change? For example, going to the gym and eating so clean and never having a bag of fries again, to stuffing your face with 5 chocolates and going like, oh, what happened here? And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today, is the 3 keys to lasting change that most people miss. I was going to make a totally different video today. Logged into Facebook and I saw this post a woman had made. She said, I need help if someone can tell me why this happens. And the post was, she was like, every evening I think about and I'm super motivated that tomorrow when I wake up, I'm gonna have better sleeping habits. I'm gonna wake up early. I will eat clean. I'll hit the gym. I'll go out for a run. I'll do this. I'll do that. And she's like, I'm super motivated as I go to sleep. And then I wake up and I snooze my alarm, I oversleep, and then I overeat, and that cycle goes on. I'm not able to make that change. What happens between me being so motivated and then me not following through? And it's so interesting because here's the secret. There is no secret. I'm kidding. The secret is that motivation is literally doesn't matter. Motivation has nothing to do with whether or not you change. And I obviously like not nothing to do, but motivation sounds like something like, oh my God, I'm pumped and I'm ready to do this. But how long can you sustain that I'm ready to do this state? You know what I mean? Like when that state passes by, what sticks? What stays? And you're no longer motivated per se. And then you fall back to your old patterns. We don't want to create change from a state of motivation. We want to create change from a place of inspiration and evolution where you are able to sustain that. When you say you're going to do something differently tomorrow, you do that thing differently, not because you're motivated to do it. You know what I mean? Like motivation is like, we don't want motivation. We want to like be the change. You know what I mean? But with that energy, I'm going to share something incredible. So I wrote this huge answer to her and I was super inspired because I remembered that I've had so many similar conversations with people. And it's about the perspective we have towards the thing we're changing. And so my purpose here is to help you make that perspective shift so that when you do go out and you want to change something in your life, you know exactly how to do it because this girl told you so, right? Let's go. Firstly, before we get to the 3 keys, let's understand some really cool stuff about you, your brain, the universe, us all. This is your past self. We'll start with understanding a few things about how change happens and why the change doesn't go through, let's say. This is your past self, and I mean, let's say your current self. Right now, this is who you're being, right? And most people, when they approach change, they do it from a level of conscious mind, right? Motivation is a very conscious mind thing. Yes, that's what it is. It's a very logical thing. I'm thinking, and I feel motivated, and then I go and do the thing. But what happens when your autopilot system kicks in? We will find that out just in a moment. But let's talk here. This past self creates like a box around you. This is you. This is your beautiful energetic field. Clearly, I am not an artist, or I would be in art school right now. I'm a coach. So your past self has this energetic field around you. And when you try to change at the level of your mind, you're trying to change something that's in this energy field. Let's say this is the habit that you want to change. It's this habit that you want to change and you want to turn it into, let's say like if it's purple right now, you want to make it, let's say green. But when you try to change the purple into green, this box of your limited self-image keeps you stuck inside. And so your change isn't able to happen because in your unconscious mind, you have this box around you, which is your self-image box, which is how you view yourself. And that is the key. You want to really hold on to the word self-image, because this is like super important for everything we're learning today. Self-image box really keeps you from changing. It creates resistance. It creates this like almost like an anchor that weighs you down. You think about this, that let's say you're in a sea and you're drowning in the sea, and you've passed out, you're drowning. And then you realize that in a moment you open your eyes and you realize, oh my God, like you're obviously like your fight flight kicks in, and you wake up and you realize, I've been drowning. You jump up and you're pushing and you're moving your arms and you're moving your legs, and you're just like, I'll do anything to get to the surface. But then you realize that right as you're about to hit the surface, there is a chain tied to your leg that is pulling you down. It is a weight that is pulling you down. And no matter how hard you try to go up, no matter how hard you try to get to the surface, that chain keeps you, weighs you down, and it's pulling you back, and it's pulling you back. And that's this resistance that when you're trying to change something, when you're trying to break that and reach the surface and take your first breath, that chain of the past self is pulling you down. And now as it's pulling you down, you have two options. Like either you're supposed to do anything you can, be it as painful as it has to, yank that chain off. You need to break that chain in order to get to the surface. And that is exactly like I would say like the summary, or everything I'm about to share with you and I have shared with you so far, everything about change, everything about being a new person is captured in that image. It's that you are being pulled down from reaching the surface by your past self, by who you have practiced being so far. So as you break that chain is only when you can have that surface. This is that chain of resistance, right? This is the chain of resistance. And now when you're trying to change, even though you put so much effort, you make a lot of effort to change. You're like, I will throw out the junk food, I will do this and I will do that, and I will do all these things in the outside world. And that's the challenge with most people, is that they try to change from the level of the mind and also from the level of the physical world. It's that by doing this one act, like throwing away all the chips in my house, I won't feel the need to have chips again. Yes, you will. Let's not lie to ourselves. Because I'll give you my own example for this, right? I, for the longest time, had my biggest challenge used to be my eating habits, right? I was like, even if I ate clean all day, I was a monster at night. Like the moment it hit 11 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m., I'm pulling up the food delivery app and I'm like, if I talk myself out of ordering, let's say like a burger or pizza or whatever, then I'll get like 5 bags of chips. That used to be like an everyday battle for me, an everyday thing where I was just like, I know that I want to change. I know that this is not good for me, but I can't help it. I can't help it. And it took learning all of this. I always knew this, but I never really applied it. Knowledge isn't power, right? Everyone can know things. Knowledge is potential power. It's execution. It's when we're being that thing that we know we are aware of, that we've learned. When we embody those learnings, that's the real power. So then when I took a step back and I really reevaluated my life and I made energetic decisions about who I'm being and what the vision for my life is, the person that I am, and all of those things, and I did the 3 keys that I'm about to share with you, is when it became effortless. Anytime that I eat food that I previously used to enjoy anything, I almost hate it. I almost feel like, man, like I don't like this, because I no longer enjoy it. I've deleted food delivery apps from my phone because I don't use it anymore. It's just not incongruence with my reality. When I go out, I choose the healthier options to eat because I love it now. As you begin to change, your self-image begins to change, and you see yourself as someone who would eat pizza 3 times a week versus someone who loves broccoli. Broccoli is my best friend, and my friends think that it's disgusting, but I freaking love broccoli. I love vegetables, and I was the kid who never ate vegetables, never even touched a vegetable. It's in how we condition ourselves into changing that we find our liberation, right? And it's so easy, which is why I want to share it with you. When we're thinking, here's what happens, right? You think about change, and then you're like, well, from my thinking mind, I will think about how I need to act. And now as I'm trying to act, I'm tapping into my feelings. My action is activating my feelings. So for example, if I'm choosing not to have like a burger and I'm choosing to have the salad instead, and I'm not talking about my present self, I'm talking about my past self. Even as I would make that choice in that moment, the action would not make me feel good, and I'd feel like, oh my God, like this sucks, and this stupid salad or whatever. And then I would later on have something equally unhealthy. And it was like I kept repeating that cycle. The idea here is that thinking to acting to feeling is not a sustainable approach. Because thinking requires effort, it requires logic, it's a conscious thing, it's too hard, and then you give up, and there's a sad face there for you. You give up. You freaking give up. And because you're just like, oh my God, it's too hard. And that's why we have to realize that we cannot shame ourselves into change. Most people, myself, I used to be like that as well. I used to try to shame myself into change. When I would eat something that wasn't healthy or whatever, I would be so criticizing to myself, so judgmental to myself, harsh and rude and unkind, and you do this and you do that and blah, blah. And the negative self-talk wouldn't stop. And why would you want to change for someone who's that unkind to you? You know what I mean? Like if you had, let's say, your best friend, your inner critic was actually your best friend. Let's say that for a moment. And that was the only friend you ever had. And this friend of yours, you're trying your best in life. And every time you try your hardest, even in the moments you feel like, I really made a lot of effort, this best friend, inner critic, goes like, you should have tried better. Would you want to stay friends with that person? Or would you be like, you know what, dude, you're really not supportive. You're really rude. You're really unkind. How soon would you drop that best friend hot cake? Like you'd be like, no, I don't want that in my life. But if we can do that with people in our lives, then why do we perpetuate the cycle of our inner critic so much? We keep allowing ourselves to be unkind to ourselves. We keep allowing the inner critic to be that unkind. And that's the reason why we hate change, because change is like, really have to deal with my inner critic all the time if I'm trying to change. You know what I mean? Another thing that happens when we try to change from our thinking mind is that you try to change from a level of control, in the sense that you try to control everything in whatever you're trying to change. You don't leave room for synchronicities. You don't leave room for miracles, because our trauma makes us feel like we're so unsafe that we are conditioned to almost want to never let go of control in anything, in business, in job, in relationships. We're always trying to control all things so that I can feel safe. And so even when you're trying to control the change you're making and how you're making that change and the exact steps you're taking to make that change, it's exhausting, because you are not allowing the divine to help you, because you're like, no. It's like when you go to a grocery store, right? And you've got like, and by the way, I'm that person who will not grab a trolley in the beginning, and then I have like 10 things in this hand and 10 things in that hand. And a poor guy, he works there, he's gonna be like, hey ma'am, can I help you? Can I bring you a trolley? And I'll be like, no, I got this. And then 2 steps later, I drop everything. And I'm like, oh no, I don't got this. By the way, I've never dropped anything. I am a professional, like 10, 20 things holder. But point is that's the image, that you're holding so many things in your hand, and everything, you're just like, I'm a strong, independent person. I don't need any help, and I will do all of this on my own. And God is just there. Like, if you just let me help you, I'll make this easier. I'll send a trolley your way. but you don't allow space for that to happen in your life. That's why it becomes harder than it needs to be. Because when we're trying to change on this level, which is the being level, this is who we're being, then, which I'll teach you from here, when we're trying to change like this, what happens is that there's more room and possibility for the divine to flow through, and we approach it very differently as well. Before I explain this further, we'll just get to this when we get to this part, but let's get here first. Let's talk about number one. The key to change is clarity. Here's the thing: most of us know what we don't want, right? And one of my clients, when I was working with her, in one of my sessions, what we do is we get very clear on what is working in your life, what is not working in your life, and then we do a process called the rant to sort of identify what your vision is, right? To bring that to life, right? What happened with her was that she knew all the things she didn't want in her life. Like, I don't want to be like this, and I don't want to be like that, and I don't want this, and I don't want that. And when I was like, well, what do you want instead? She was like, I just know I don't want that. Most people know what they don't want, but they don't know what they want. Took her through this meditation where I helped her, a guided visualization where I helped her see her future self and extract information from there. And then she was able to do that process more effectively. And what was really magical was that once that happened, she was shocked. She was like, after the rant was over, she was like, Anna, I had no idea I wanted these things. Like, only when we did that entire process that it came out of her. And so my purpose here is that a lot of times we don't even have clarity on who or where we want to be, because we don't allow ourselves to even think about a positive future, because we just don't think that it's possible. It's like if your limitations cease to exist, if what you believe about life, what you believe about possibility, that cease to exist, what would life be like for you? The point is that you want to get really clear on who you are currently, which we will, for right now and for future, called your old self. You want to get clear on who that old self is, but not just that, not just getting clear on who you don't want to be anymore. You want to get clear on who is your true self. For example, if you're like, I don't want to be a procrastinator, then what do you want instead? Get clear on what you want your ideal self-image to be like. Who are you at your best? Who are you at your greatest? Get super clear on all of those things, because there is this gap between who you are being right now and who you actually are capable and have the potential of being. And this gap is the resistance of change, because change does not happen because it's too hard or you're not capable of it or whatever. The reason why you can't change is just an identity thing. It's a self-image thing. We want to know that this current self-image that is not serving the change that you want to make, what is that self-image versus what is that self-image where you've made that change, right? And in that self-image is where the magic happens. So the old self thing, you want to identify what are your habits, values, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, focus, every single thing that is a part of your old current self that you don't want, but you want to identify, what are my thinking patterns? What are my most predominant thoughts? What are my most predominant emotions? What are my, what do I focus most on? What are my relationships? What are the patterns that I keep repeating? And all those things, when you get more clarity on that, that is when you know that these things are not serving me. And I'll give you an incredible example to put all of this into perspective in a moment. Because with the old self, here's the thing about change. The reason you find it hard to change is not because it's hard to change, but because you're trying to change from your logical mind, right? And all of your personality, all of your habits, your values, your focus, your beliefs, all of these things are autopilot. If you've watched my last video, it was about how our beliefs, when they're formed, they are imprinted in the subconscious mind and they run our lives on autopilot. And I'll give you a very great example for this, which is that let's say that there's a plane and it's scheduled and it's directionally told, like those autopilot planes where you just like put in the direction of where you want the plane to go. For example, that plane is told that, well, you're supposed to go from Florida to New York, and it's, they put in that. I'm not great at explaining about planes. Anyway, so the pilot puts in the navigation thingy for going from Florida to New York. And now the machine knows that, okay, well, I'm here at Florida and we're going to New York. Now, let's say when the plane is flying, there are some directional changes, that happen. I mean, directional changes as in like there's just some stuff that happens midair, and the plane has to change routes, okay? But even when those changes happen, even when those things happen, the plane doesn't not land in New York at the end. The plane may, oh my God, a simpler example would have been, so for example, let's say you get out of your house and you put on Google Maps, you're like, okay, well, I need to get to this hotel. And now let's say the route you usually take has a lot of traffic. So now you're like, okay, well, I'll take a different route, but in the end, you will get to that hotel because that's the map direction that you've given to your driver, right? And that's the direction that you follow. So your driver won't be, no, I'll take you to a better hotel. No, it'll take you to exactly where you put the location off. So that's exactly how our subconscious mind works, okay? So to say that you have imprinted within your subconscious mind sort of like a direction, a location, or, this navigation, whatever, off the personality you've practiced being. It has those chords of the personality that you've practiced being. And so now when you're trying to change, you may take a different road, but eventually you're going to get to the hotel again. You're going to get back to your natural state. You're going to get back to who you've practiced being so far, because that is your natural familiar state. And so that's why we need to understand that this old self is on autopilot. It is on autopilot, it's going to take you from Florida to New York. It's going to take you from your house to your hotel. Might be a different way, might be something else, but it will take you from A to B exactly how you have conditioned it. So when we want to change, we're not going to say that, oh, well, maybe if I take a different road, I'll get to a different destination. No. It's that I need to change my destination altogether to change my output. Like, you can't expect that I land at New York and find, I don't know, like you can't expect that I land to New York and I find the Eiffel Tower. You're not going to find the Eiffel Tower. If you want the Eiffel Tower, you got to go to Paris. You got to change the location of where you're headed. You got to change the direction you've given to that autopilot subconscious mind. So that is the purpose of us doing change this way, which is that, instead of saying that I will make more creative ways to change my strategy for change, I change the place that I'm headed to. And then I, work reverse from there. And I'll teach you how just in a moment. We've identified that you need clarity on the old self, but you also need clarity on the true self, which is that, let's say, for example, the old self is New York. Then let's say that you don't like New York, but you don't know what you do like. Then what? You're stuck in New York because you don't know what you like. You might try different cities, but you're going to be like, you're going to feel lost because you're like, I don't know what I like. And let's say your true self is freaking Paris and you're like, so when you know what Paris is like, when you know why you like Paris, then you're going to be able to, have a clearer picture of where am I headed. And that is very important for change. It's getting super as clear as you get about your current habits, values, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, focus. You get exactly that clear about your new habits, values, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, focus. But don't worry, I'm not going to be like, oh, implement all of these things to change your habits and change everything about you and you are changed. That's not how it is. Okay. But the second thing is, which is the best thing, which is being, right? So being is about mental rehearsal. I don't know if you can tell, but this is a person meditating. I tried my best to draw a stick figure meditating. When you have this and you have this, Now, the next step isn't to change from your physical reality just yet. You don't have to do anything in your physical reality just yet. You can keep being the same person you're being, but what you're gonna change is you're gonna change the image in your mind. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have an inside out approach. We start creating change through just visualizing yourself as this person, visualizing yourself as the person who is a Paris person versus a New York person. So whether it's like, you want to have cleaner eating habits, whether it's you want to hit the gym 4 times a week, whether it's that you want to be somebody who meditates every day, whether it's somebody, you want to start working on your business, you want to make any change in your life, just go into your mind's eye and see yourself living that reality. And just when you leave the meditation, feel like that part is activated in you, that now this is natural for you, this is who you are. And do this for about at least 15 days. So you're gonna continue doing this for 15 days, but just for 15 days, you will not make an active, conscious effort to change anything. All you will do is visualize the change in your mind's eye, okay? And obviously repeat this for 15 days. Another thing is I do have a manifestation magic workshop coming up, which is how to manifest your dream life how to manifest your dream life without feeling stuck by the past. It's on Friday, the coming Friday. So I'll drop the link to register below. If any of you wants to join, I'd love to have you guys there, okay? It's free of cost. The third thing you want to change, the third key to change is your story. Your story is your chain, it's your anchor, and that's what keeps you in the familiar. So the story is something like, I can't change, it's too hard to change, I'm not capable of changing, maybe it's, I'm not meant for it, maybe I just can't do it, maybe I'm not capable, maybe I'm not worthy. All these stories you have about why change isn't possible for you is what keeps you stuck. So while you're doing this mental rehearsal, by the way, this is what happens when you start being. You lose the box and you open space up in your energetic field where you're just emitting energy outwards and you're allowing possibility for the divine to go inwards. It's a very different from think, act, feel approach. It's that first I be that person in my mind, then I do the thing, then I have the result. It's not that, I need my strategy first. It's just that I will first, fire and wire the neural pathways in my brain that are connected to the change I want to make. So that when I start making that change in my physical reality, it feels effortless because I've already rehearsed being that person. Today, story is what keeps you stuck in the familiar. And you want to have, when you're practicing, when you're doing your mental rehearsal to be, do, and have, you want to create an empowering story for yourself. You want to create a new story for how that is attached to this new true self. For example, change is effortless for me. It's easy for me to do XYZ, whatever it is that you want to do. It is natural for me to make this change. And right now, we're not doing anything in the physical reality yet. All you're doing is right before you go to sleep, what you're doing is you're remembering this, you're playing this movie in your mind of this new version of you, just seeing yourself being that way and then feeling like this is who I am. This is my natural state. And that is the story you're going to create. Because here's the thing, the word decision, and you're going to, every time you're doing this, this meditation or just this practice, mental rehearsal really, is that you are making a decision in your mind, a decision about who I am committed to being. And the more often you make that decision, you're activating that part in your brain, which is you're almost like firing and wiring different neurons. And nerve cells that fire together, Dr. Joe Dispenza always says that, wire together, right? So we're just firing and wiring different nerve cells. And what that does is that it creates a different change in your mind. And the word decision in Latin means incision, right? Which means to cut off from. When you're making every single day a decision about now the person you are committed to being and how this is natural for you, you're making that decision and you're cutting yourself off from the possibility of this old self. And you'll realize that once you've done this for 15 days and then you start to make that change in the physical world, it will be so effortless. And then don't stop mentally rehearsing then either. You keep mentally rehearsing, but you want to give yourself that almost like a head start before you go out and start physically changing things, right? And because the thing is that what most people, the thing that they get wrong is that when they start to change, they start with the strategy that how, if I want to lose weight, how am I going to do it? Oh, I need to do this thing and I need to do that thing and I need to do this and I need to do that. It's always about the how, but the how is the least of your concerns. When your why is strong enough, when you know why you're doing something, when you know who you're committed to being and you've practiced all of that already, the how just appears, because it's not like there's a lack of knowledge out there. It's not like there's a lack of resources out there. There's a lack of nothing out there, right? The how is the easiest part there. You want to condition yourself to the new thing, and then the how will come to you very naturally because you already know how to do it. It's not that you don't know. It's just a matter of acting. But we don't want to start from the think, act, and feel. We want to do, be, do, and have. And so I hope this was helpful for you. What I will encourage you to do is to join me on Friday on our live Zoom webinar. We're also going to do a meditation at the end to wire your new self and to activate your manifestations. I'll put the details down below, and I can't wait to see you there. Bye-bye. Oh, and like, subscribe, share, comment. Bye-bye.